And welcome to PM Express tonight. It's one of those conversations that we've all been having. The queues have been formed for long, and eventually the minister had to extend. But even before we start, get your SIM card re-registered. If you don't have the Ghana card, please get it. Let's get to the heart of the challenges that I know many of you have faced in getting your Ghana card, which is a primary document for getting your SIM re-registered. Tonight we have the men from all the sides to try and help you with some of the key questions that you may have, as the extension had come again to September. It is that we know that the minister had extended this to the 30th of September. Any SIM that has not been fully registered by the end of that time will be barred from receiving certain services, including voice and data services. I was reading a bit into this. It appears to me that the minister, it's not going to be an outright, deactivation of your SIM. You may have some services, others you may not have. And so that is an interesting one. We'll get into that pretty shortly. But this is the deadlines that we've had. This is not the first time this has been extended, by the way. We had it before, the last time twice already. And we've seen this latest one on the 31st of September. The extension deadline. And the minister made a point that we went to verify today, that the data that she had indicated that there was a 90% drop in SIM re-registrations as soon as the first deadline was extended on the 21st of March. Today, when we went round again across the country to many of the SIM re-registration centers, they were empty. The long queues you saw last week leading to Friday and Saturday had all disappeared overnight after the minister announced this. That we found pretty curious, which appears to confirm the minister's position on this. But why is that happening? We'll get into that. And shouldn't we all possibly take part of the responsibility for getting this done? Because both parties, indeed, both NDC and NPP, agree that re-registering your SIM is a good thing. There are reasons for that. The question of how do you do it that has led to the disagreements. And so let's start from that base. There's an agreement, there's consensus that re-registering SIM, good. How do you get there? Is where the conversation had been. So if you look at the statistics that the minister gave, unregistered SIMs stand at 26 million right now, and they are voice SIMs as of 20th July is 42 million. So these 42 million SIMs will have to be re-registered. But if you look at the number registered, it's only 62%. So there's a huge number still undone. But there are many people also, there's a huge number that have received a Ghana card but have not gone to re-register. That's also there. And we put this up to graphically represent for you those who have Ghana card update, registered. Those who have registered is 16.9. This is according to the NIA. Cards printed is 6.5 million. Cards issued is 15.7. This is 16.5 million. Cards issued is 15.7 million, and cards not issued is 837,000. So all these will have to go for their cards. And remember that because this is the fundamental document, if you don't have it, you can't get the SIM re-registered. Now, this I found interesting when the research team pulled it up. We looked at the recent housing census. To get a Ghana card, you need to be 50 and above, right? And that number, in terms of Ghana population, the last census is 19.9 million people. Now, if you look at the total number of Ghanaians with the Ghana card currently, is 16.97 million. That means that to get all these people with Ghana card, the NIA will have to print 2.93 million cards in the next 2 months. Because the point is, you don't want to give anybody a legitimate excuse not to re-register the SIM. If they don't have the Ghana card, if the NIA can't print this 2.93 million, then they have a legitimate reason. And it will be very unfair, some may say even illegal, to deactivate their SIMs come 31st September when the NIA hasn't been able to print all this. But again, that is assuming that all of the people have gone to the centers and their names have been taken and NIA hasn't managed to print all. So there are really technical challenges there that we need to explore. And the NIA is with me tonight, so we need to ask them, are they in a position to print 2.93 million cards in 2 months, if indeed all these people showed up and asked to be registered? Self-service is also up, it's coming up. We're going to get some clarity. Ken Ashigbe is the chief executive of the the telco chamber, and he's joining us via Zoom. I wanted to ask him quickly where we are with the self-service SIM registration app that the minister talked about yesterday. That's Ken Ashigbe joining me right now. Uncle Ken, I'm grateful that you joined me here on PM Express. He's the chief executive of the Telecoms Chamber. In the studio with me is Sam George, the deputy ranking on the Communications Committee, and of course, Mr. Ganui, who speaks for the National Identification Authority. We're going to get your answers answered and taken for you. But let me start first with Mr. Ashigbe, who is joining me. Mr. Ashigbe, let's start with the very latest on this, the self-service app. I know the minister announced yesterday that it may be up sometime this week. Do we know how close we are for that app to go live?
Well, thank you very much, Evans, and good evening to my brother Sam George and Doc, and then to our viewers as well. To answer your question, we're still expecting the app this week. Yeah, remember the minister had mentioned it. This is an app that was required, especially with one of the things that we had recommended when in the heat of January, February, where people were really not coming. We thought that if you got the app in, then those who did not actually, when they did their 404, could then do that as well. And then they did not need to come to the centers. Also, you had a situation where Ghanaians who were not within the jurisdiction, but had their Ghana cards and had SIM cards, could also have used that in the registration process. So it's taken a while to come, and we're happy that the ministers announced that it's coming. And we hope that that would also be another option for those who would not want to go to the centers to register. And most importantly, for those who are outside the jurisdiction. We know that NIA says they are going to go maybe in September to go and do registration. And so it means for now, they would not be able to do the registration even if they had a Ghana card. And so this would offer them the opportunity of doing it. And from what the minister said, they would be able to even use their passport for now and then have some time to update it where the Ghana card once they get it.
Okay, so the 30th of September is a new deadline that has been given. So as we speak tonight, the minister said this week, so we're giving her up until the end of the week to see when it comes or not. But is that timeline, knowing the pressure that the telcos were under, two months from the telcos' point of view, is that realistic enough timeline?
Well, the interesting thing about this timeline is that it depends on a lot of factors. So as you were sharing your numbers, I then, typically the engineer in me and Sam George, we suffer that. So I did some arithmetics. So if you look at the total number of SIM card, if you add the 800 and something to the 2.9 million who do not have the card, and then you divided that number by the 61 days that you have in August and September. Yeah. And then you divided that further by the 275 district offices plus the 16 regional offices of the NIA. NIA should be doing around 165, registrations per day, per location, giving cards to people for us to be able to ensure that by the end of September, everybody will be given the card. So that's one element of it. The second element is that you need to then consider those who have to do updates, those who, and we know that the NIA says that currently is only being done at LWAC, but they're going to be rolling out to the regions as well. You also have to look at the number of people whose registration are under adjudication, who then would not be able to get their Ghana cards. There are also a group of citizens who, when you attempt to do the registration, the feedback you get is that data already sent. So that one between the telcos and NIA, we need to do some data reconciliation to be able to deal with that. With a common platform as well, when you go and the app is down, some registrations are done offline. So again, in this one, the telcos need to work together with the common platform providers to ensure that we are able to sync all of this and get these people also registered. You have the people who are unfortunate brothers and sisters who are physically challenged. And so their cards, you see that the NIA stamps amputee on it. Currently, as we speak, they are unable to register. I'm sure the NIA would have to work together with the NTA and the telcos to ensure that we are able to get a system that works for them as well so that we can clear their backlog. You have our brothers and sisters in Boku, in some of these areas where because of insecurity, we've had to pull back in terms of our registration and all of that. That will also have to be done. So all of that are factors that we need to deal with. But Evans, you see, another major point you made when you're starting was the fact that urging everybody to go. So yesterday, actually in the queue, in the morning, there were a large group of people in the queues waiting to be registered. The time the minister announced an extension, people started leaving the queues and saying that, well, they were going home, they were going to be back. And even today, I was on Adom FM just before I came here. They were showing videos that actually shows that the places that were fully parked are completely empty. So it is really important that as we take out those who genuinely do not have the card or cannot register, those of us, the 20% that have done only the 404 but have not done the biocapture, we need to find a way of, pushing all of these people to get the registration done.
Very interesting. And there's one fundamental question that comes up when I hear you list the factors that may or may not make the 2 months realistic. And it appears that the deadline may be an issue, right? Because remember that the NIA is a continuous registration policy that they run. But then you have the SIM registration, which has a fixed deadline. It begs the question whether, considering that the Ghana card is the basis for the SIM registration, but that one is continuous. The NIA can do this in perpetuity. But you're telling people, well, fixed deadline 30th September. I mean, from the telco's chamber, when you sit in the room when they're talking to the minister, should we reconsider this hard fixed deadline, or should we vary it a bit and say, for those who don't genuinely have the Ghana card, because the Ghana card NIA hasn't issued, we're going to create an exception for you, rather than have a blanket deadline for everybody? What's the thinking of the telcos on this?
So, again, so at this point, I wear my engineering hat and say that, we need to find a way where we can actually desegregate those who genuinely cannot register because they don't have the base document. We need to really be able to take out those who don't have the Ghana card now, those who Ghana cards are under adjudication, those the SIM, the data reconciliation issues that we're talking about, Ghanaians who are outside the jurisdiction, who then might not have had a Ghana card and then are unable to register. We need to make sure that we actually take all of these people out. And then once we do that, then for those who do not have any reason, not to have registered, we need to definitely provide them some time, ample enough time, make sure that, we provide and I think for now, if you have a Ghana card, the number of places that we've put in together, the app, need to make sure that it's a lot more resilient so that when you put a lot of pressure on it, it's able to handle it. We need to also take the service to the consumer as we're doing it. So after you've done all of this and you've given people the opportunity to register and they're not doing it, you need to, on a gradual basis, increasing the severity of it, be able to guide people to be able to do, this registration. Bear in mind also that currently acquiring a SIM or the Ghana card is an ongoing process. The only thing that seems to have a deadline is those who are already in the database. And we know that in this database are people who have used fraudulent means. Evans, you'd be surprised that somebody could have used your ID to have registered a SIM, and they do things, using your name. And we want to clean this up. We want to make sure that all the fraud, we know we might not be able to eliminate it completely, but minimize it as much as possible. And also improve the traceability such that when somebody uses it to perpetuate something, you are able to find it. So for me, I am all for trying to find a way of making sure that those that we have provided the cards to, those that are able to, so I don't expect somebody whose card, for example, is needs an update, to travel all the way from Paga to Accra to come register, that definitely, is not justice. So that's not being fair to the person. I don't expect that, a physically challenged person now who has, and the interesting thing is that one of them has actually petitioned the minister and copied all of us, that he has 3 SIMs. He's been trying with his Ghana card to register. He's unable to do that. So he was really very worried. I reached out to the number. He's actually a teacher. And he really was worried. So somebody like that, and I remember the minister mentioned it when we had, the industry stakeholder engagement, that somebody like that, you definitely cannot be penalizing that person.
And it may be many thousands of those in the system.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot of them, yes.
I mean, so I get a sense that you are not in favor of a hard deadline. Something must vary. A hard blanket deadline. You're not in favor of a hard blanket deadline.
Yeah. No, because you see, the thing about it that it's not for nothing that was freedom and justice in our coat of arms. That is one of the the value of the country. So we need to be just to those who actually do not have the Ghana card, or who through no fault of theirs are not able to register. And I think that has to be at the mind of all of us. And for me, one of the things that I would wish that would happen is that government should provide resources to the NIA. The same way when if you want to elect the politicians, we then do registration, not at the constituency level, but at the polling station level, where you then bring the registration as close as possible to the citizen.
The electorate, yeah.
I think we should, the electorate, we need to take advantage of this current imperative of wanting to get everybody's SIM registered, to say that we're giving NIA money again, go out and do another, mass registration, but take it as close as possible to these people. We need to ensure that when we do that, we ensure that there's data, there's, connectivity in those places, so that they actually can issue and print the card at that place, and make sure that as Gina Hoji, you do it and you get it. It's not part of the 800 again that we have. So all of this have to be done. Then when you are saying that for those, typically we have to bear in mind that out of those 42 million, there are some numbers of it there that the fraudsters own. Those SIMs are definitely not going to be registered. They are not going to come forward because they know that when they come forward, they will be found out. And I need to also, encourage my colleagues who might have taken the quick loans and think that just not getting their SIMs registered, they can hide. Now, because you took this digital loan, you have left your digital footprints there. So we can find you. You've used that. You might even you send money back to your bank. When you go to your bank, it's the Ghana card you use. If you're a worker, you state registration, your taxes you pay, registering a company, registering a car, registering land. So gradually we are becoming very integrated. So just letting your SIM be blocked so that you don't pay the loan, unfortunately, you might lose your SIM, and then you also be found out as well.
I mean, thank you very much. This is almost everything you'll be saying, that blanket deadline isn't the way to go, and the Telcos Chamber supports that try and find a way of accommodating the possibility that people may be genuinely disenfranchised, but I have to use the word, for no fault of theirs.
Very good evening to our viewers, to my senior engineer, and to Dr. Ganiu from the NIA. I believe that I've made one point emphatically, that the minister simply has failed to consult and listen to technical expertise.
But they would have heard this in their meetings.
If the chamber is making these points, same points that the opposition, the minority have been making, same points civil society have been making, but we are still saddled with this problem. It tells you have a minister who doesn't pay attention to detail, a minister who doesn't listen to sound advice when it comes. She's stuck in her ways. What she wants to do is what she's going to do. And that's why you have this mess. No one person is the repository of knowledge. And you need to listen and engage with the stakeholders. You need to engage with NIA. I mean, yesterday I cringed when I heard her basically try to out the NIA and say, I mean, you are the one who is saying you want to use the byproduct of the NIA. The NIA didn't beg the minister to use the Ghana card. They didn't request it. She chose it. and then to turn around and play those kind of games. And that's the problem. The committee from Parliament has been trying to engage the minister since October last year on this issue. She just won't listen. And I keep saying, look, the minister must bear in mind, her responsibility is policy formulation. Policy implementation is the responsibility of the NCA. When you take the legislation for SIM registration, LI 2006, it never says in there the minister shall. It says the authority shall. The authority there is the National Communications Authority. So you need to know where to draw the line between policy formulation and policy implementation. Policy formulation is the job of politicians on the advice of technocrats. Implementation is the preserve of technocrats. If the NCA and its engineers were running this implementation and working with the chamber, it would have been a much tidier process that you would have seen. Look, and like I said, Senior Ken has gone into the numbers. When you did your analysis and I saw the 2.93 million, I was like, well, there's going to be a lot more than 2.93 million. Because even from the 16.9 million that the NIA say they've printed, you know that about 15.5 have been issued. Or 15.9, between 15.5 and 15.9, about 15 point something million. A little under 16 million have been issued. But even with the cards that have been issued, a good number have been misplaced and are pending replacement. A few of another group within that 16 million have become subject of being flagged. Because, and there's a case I called Ganu about. When I walked in, he said I haven't called him in a long time. It's because he couldn't resolve the issue for me. So I've decided to stop calling him. A friend who has registered, and then the person's card has been flagged. Reason being, the person is said to have registered in the UK. The person is also saying, I have not done any registration in the UK. And so they are saying the person is not Ghanaian. This is someone who is of Ghanaian parentage, born in Ghana, but has lived in the UK for a while. The person is back home in Ghana now, but the person up for almost a year and a half is unable to have their card. And I can show you the messages. Even yesterday, the person sent me a message asking me, saying, you promised to help me and you couldn't help me. Because I forwarded it to Ganu. It was Ganu who made me aware that there was an administrative flag on nothing. Arbitration was supposed to happen. It's been over a year. The NIA processes, the NIA has been so bogged down that resources that should be channeled into arbitration of these matters are on the field having to print cards. Now, you see, if you want to talk about making this seamless and efficient, you have, it's like a Venn diagram where you have the universal set and you've got subsets. There are points of intersection and there are those that will be outside of the whole set. If you take the 42 million active SIM cards, in there, a percentage or a number of those SIM cards, as we speak today, the 26 million or so that have done stage 1 registration, it means that those 26 million SIM cards belong to persons who have Ghana cards.
Yeah.
Good. It's possible that some of those persons have added up to the queues you have seen at NIA Sports over the last few months in trying to get those Ghana cards. Some of them were replacement cards. As we speak, the telcos have done some kind of harmonization with NIA of their databases. Now, NIA has its own application. And that is why I keep repeating. When SNIT did its migration or its linkage and synchronization with the Ghana card, with NIA, they didn't ask SNIT workers or SNIT contributors to come to the SNIT office and resubmit biometrics and do whatever.
That's true.
When DVLA also did same, they never asked us to do. You use the short code for your SNIT and you paired it up. That USSD was provided to SNIT by NIA. Seamless process, one stop. Online verification. You have biometrics on the SNIT database. You have biometrics on the AFIS system at NIA. You match those the AFIS. If it matches the biometrics, if it matches, it means that the Sam George on the SNIT database is the Sam George on the NIA database. Sam George does not have to go and queue anywhere. The NIA could simply have done same with the telcos. Look. Proper policy implementation here would have been that this directive would have not been to the customers but to the telcos. Maybe Engineer Ken may disagree with me because the telcos are his clients. But I believe that this directive of SIM cards should not have come to us as customers. Imagine the UK, the regulator in the UK asking British citizens, 60-something million of them, to go and queue. It's unthinkable. But that's a country that works. That's a country where the people who govern and lead think. That won't happen. The directive would have gone to the operator. You have SIM cards. Make sure that you synchronize that SIM card database with the NIA. What that will do is that for individuals like yourself, I know you have a Ghana card, and you have a SIM card. You registered your SIM card possibly with another biometric document. That biometric document is there. If you registered with your passport, for example, the passport office has also done some integration with the NIA. So if you registered with your passport, what will happen is they will query the biometrics on the passport database and the biometrics on the NIA database. You are one and the same. So you have no business going to the telco office. Now, even if your card was missing, you would have no business going to NIA right now to go and queue for a replacement because you have to bring it to the telco. So you would realize that the people who will be showing up at the NIA spots right now would actually be restricted to the people like Sam George who do not have a Ghana card at all and are now coming to apply. But you have seen a mad rush on the NIA, and let's not forget, the NIA is a creation of law. The way the law was created, the NIA is not to work for a deadline. No. It's a continuous registration authority that is built because of its security nature to constantly be producing. And the day I visited the NIA office in Shashi with my committee members, I cringed. Almost 5,000 people in a national security facility. You won't have 5,000 people at Blue Gate, where we don't even have critical national data sitting. And then where our servers are sitting, you have 5,000 people there. Imagine the kind of threats we created simply because of a poor policy implementation by a minister. If the ministry, through NCA, had decided to go along with the NIA's own verification platform, which has worked for other state agencies, and put aside their pension for procurement, and decided and shelved this procurement of their own app and use the NIA's app, by now we would have gone fast.
Stay with me, Gani. I'm coming to you because there's a lot of questions for you, so I'm reserving that, and Ken will have to leave us. So let me quickly get him to respond to this point for me. Uncle Ken, this point that Sam Jordan made, could the I know you are shaking. Could the telcos have done this, knowing that the data and the biometrics is already available at the NIA, without us coming to queue again at your offices?
Well, you see, there are various ways in which we would have done this. But the way you do the re-registration of the phones would not be the same as you do for, say, SNIT, for example. You know, you need to actually validate, because the challenges that you're trying to cure in our situation is different from the challenges that you are curing for, say, the SNIT. So SNIT, all we're doing was that we were linking your SNIT number to, your Ghana card number, and then getting that done. It's slightly more simpler. But in our case, some of the challenges you wanted to cure were challenges of whether I actually am who I say I am. Somebody could be holding a Kenetashide SIM card right now, who is not me. He's registered with my credentials and all of that. So you actually wanted to validate that. But I am pretty sure from the engineering point of view, we could have done this to have made it a lot more easier. And, talking about the fact that the NIA themselves have their own solution. That's true. You know that currently, if you even had lost your Ghana card, your credentials are still with the NIA. So you could walk anywhere without a card and then be able to place your hand on it. So when Sam George makes the point that some of the people we are seeing there could even be part of those who have done phase 1 and have not done the B capture, but because they've lost their Ghana card, when you have to do it again, you need to bring your Ghana card to the center and it has to be scanned physically. Those are the places where I am pretty sure. But you see, Sam George mentions the minister talking about staying in their own lane. But in the same statement of the minister talks about collaboration with the NIA as well. So I'm hoping that collaboration would happen. And then for these kind of people as well, we then could employ some of the solutions that NIA has so that we have multiple ways in which we can do this and make this a lot more easier for ourselves. So the issue of the app, I'm waiting to see it, but all of that are ways in which we really can improve the way this has been done.
Very finally, before you go, on the concerns you raised about the blanket deadline, I'm assuming that in the meetings with the minister, you definitely, knowing Ken Ashigbe, definitely would have raised it. What was the feedback when you did?
So you see, sometimes I think we need to give the minister some credit as well. So the minister listened. Yusuf, this is a minister who just a few days before they said they were not going to renew it. So then he's come back. And because there was this engagement that was done, all the MNOs were there, the BWAs were there, their technical partners were there, NTA were there, and we had a conversation. So the minister, some of even the issues were raised by the minister in terms of some who do not have it. And so you hear the minister talking about applying some sanctions. So I'm sure that in coming up with those directives, she would take into consideration the fact that some people, and it was the minister who mentioned the example of the gentleman who had petitioned, so I think that I'm hoping that a lot more we'll do this a lot more collaboratively, take all the ideas that are coming up and find ways in which we actually can do this so that we can still, I heard Sam George talk today on Joy FM when he was having the program with you, of the imperative to do this registration. So how do we all do it? Bringing together all our ideas. And I love that proverb about the fact that Nunya Adidochi Onya Ashida Kamak Planeo. So that's the same thing Sam George said. That knowledge is, a baobab tree, one hand is not able to collapse it. So all of us should bring our ideas together, help the NIA, help the NCA, work with the ministry, and be able to ensure that the consumer is not overly discomforted in getting his SIM card registered. And in the process, let's bear in mind, as a SIM card is driving the registration, is making a lot more people also pick the Ghana card.
Yeah, thank you very much, Uncle Ken. I'll take a break shortly, but I need to bring in the NIA's Mr. Ganui on this. So you've heard almost this is a burden on you, because if you fail, nothing else happens. Exactly. We just looked at the numbers. Over 2 million you have to print. Is that your own analysis if you look at it to make sure that almost everybody who qualifies to own a Ghana card at least has an opportunity to have it, that you must print more than 2 million in the next 2 months?
So not necessarily printing more than 2 million.
Or register them.
But register them.
Okay.
Because if that is anything to go by, we can look at the number of cards yet to be printed as of now. Okay. And the statistics you ran was as of 21st July.
Yes.
So from the 28th of July, and of course these numbers will keep changing, we have done over 17 million now.
Okay. When you say done, registered?
Registered, okay. Yeah. So enrolled more than 17 million Ghanaians. And we have printed about 16.5 million cards. Yeah. And we have issued about 15.7 million. Okay. So the specific numbers are there. So if you take the difference between number of cards printed and the number of cards issued, it's around 650,000. Okay. As of the 28th
That's July. Well over 95% of that printed, of what you registered printed, because it's 600,000.
No, 650,000 yet to be printed.
Printed out of 70 million you registered.
No, yes, out of 70 million
registered.
We have registered.
The question I was going to ask you,
16.5 million.
The question I'm going to ask you is that, assuming now we have a deadline, so everybody needs their SIM card, right? 2 months. Assuming all the 2 million plus turn out to register. In 2 months, can you print all that in 2 months?
Yes, we should be able to do that. I mean, Engineer Ken Achigbe did some mathematics and arrived at a figure of 165,000
per registration center.
65 per day.
Per day, per registration center.
Yes, per registration center.
Yeah.
So this is across the 292
that you have currently.
Regional and district offices we currently have. But there are other avenues for registering. And an example is a premium registration. So you go to the NIA headquarters, day in, day out, we are registering people through the premium registration mode. And there's also a premium registration center at the Cal Bank headquarters.
That's what you pay.
Exactly, that's where you pay the 250 cedis.
Yeah.
And indeed, a lot of people are taking advantage of that. We also have institutional registration. So multimedia calling on us to come and register your staff, that every member of staff pays an amount of 100 Ghana cedis. Day in, day out, we get those applications. We are able to set up registration teams and they go to conduct this registration. Then we have household registration. People sitting in their homes and inviting NIA. There should be 5 people and above, and each person in the household paying an amount of 150 cedis. Again, people are taking advantage of that. And with the MNOs, for instance, we have signed some MOUs with some of them, and we intend to set up some registration centers at some of their locations across the country. That's what we call the co-location.
Because that will be good, because we have to,
yes.
when would this happen?
Exactly. So these conversations have gone on.
Okay. But no timelines yet.
It is as and when the institution is ready. I know for now MTN is ready, home and dry, and very soon we should be able to set up.
In other words, you go to the center for an MTN center, you pick your Ghana card, you quickly do the card registration.
So those conversations are all ongoing. So at the end of the day, we are confident that once these measures have been put in place and Ghanaians respond
by going to register.
By going to register, Ivan, that's the most critical point. Because we introduced one of those measures somewhere in February when we established special registration points at various stadia across the country. People were going there, and we had multiple enrollment stations at each of these stadia. But at the end of the day, as soon as the minister announced an extension from 31st March to 31st July, the numbers dropped again. And these were officers we had recruited, given contracts for a period, and they couldn't be sitting idle. That is also the taxpayers' money that is being expended. So we had to close those special registration points. So over the next 2 months, these are some of the measures that we should be able to institute to cater for the 2.7 million Ghanaians who are yet to register for the Ghana card.
So bottom line, what you're saying is that the 2 months, you can meet that deadline for people who register.
Yes, so as long as
they come and register,
people go out to register,
you can print.
We should be able to register them.
Register and print.
And print.
And print within the 2 months.
Yes.
Assuming all of them come in the first month, you can print and let them be ready to pick up within the 2 months.
No, why not? I mean,
people need that assurance.
Yes,
I know some don't have concerns that you can do it, but you're saying you can.
That's the assurance I'm giving you. But if you look at the numbers a week ago at our various registration centers, and just today, I mean, it tells a story that so as long as that lackadaisical attitude continue, we could still get to September, a week or two to the end of the deadline, and we'll record these numbers again.
Are you going to have
that overwhelm the system, and at the end of the day, you still have a lot of people.
So you're saying, just to repeat, so far as they turn out to register those 2.7 million people, continuous, and you'll be able to get them registered and print in time.
Yes.
And then secondly, are you activating your special registration centers in soon?
Yes, very soon. The registration centers we are going to establish at various locations of the MNOs is also going to come off.
Okay.
So let's say from the next 2 weeks, for instance, we could
see
have
that happening.
These centers. And then the conversation about lost cards that have to be replaced. Yes, we currently have 16 regional offices that replacement of lost cards is taking place. That has been piloted for a while. And from the next 2 weeks, we should be able to introduce that at all. So the
LWAC
offices of
LWAC will be replicated across the country?
So LWAC is already replicated at the other regional capitals of our country.
Okay.
But we intend to replicate that at all our operational district offices, which are 275.
Before the expiration of the September deadline?
Yes. This thing I'm talking about, I can assure that in the next 2 weeks, that is going to happen. And that includes the updating of personal records. So again, people have only LWAC to go to across Ghana to be able to update their personal records. We have just ended training with some of our technical people, and we are ready to roll that out, even from Monday.
Okay, week. I mean, I'll take a break. When I come back, I'll ask Sam George if he's reassured, because that's the base document. The NIA says we are ready. All that is left is you going to register. Stay with me. And thank you for staying with us on PM Express. Sam George is my guest in the studio. He's the Deputy Ranking on the Communications Committee in Parliament, and Mr. Ganui is the spokesperson for the NIA. Before the break, he was categorical, assuring you that if you turn out in your numbers to register in the next 2 months, they will get your cards for you to go and pick. And so you shouldn't panic at all. All you need to do is to show up and register. Sam George, that is reassuring.
You know, there's a saying, Kasayam from, I've used it for somebody already, so I don't want to use it for NIA. But it's a lot of hope. And like I said earlier this evening with you, hope and faith are not instruments of public policy. They are instruments of religious belief. So you can have hope and faith in spiritual matters. But in matters of technology, it's not hope and faith. It's, like Ken said, as engineers, we have a bias towards the figures. 4 years of production of cards, you've produced 15.5 million cards in 4 years. Even when you did a mass rollout, where you went into people's homes, literally, you printed 15.5 cards, 5 million or 15.7 million cards in 4 years. And then you want to tell me that in 2 months, you'll be able to print in excess of 2 million cards. If that is not a miracle, like feeding 5,000 with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, I don't see how they will work that miracle. So yes, it's good for them to be optimistic. But even as we speak now, in my district, Ningo Pram district, they are producing 15 cards a day. 15 a day. Like many other districts across the country, 15
Maybe
cards
only
a
50
day.
people are coming in.
No, with queues there. As we speak today, if you go to the regional office of the NIA in Ho, the next available appointment date is the 3rd of September. For your data to be processed.
Why is that? Can we let him address that? Because somebody raised it too, that in Ho, they have a special case, and that's true. Well, what's happening in Ho?
Well, I think there are some of the districts and regional offices that we still have quite a lot of cards that have to be issued. So the officials we have there will then play the dual role. So from morning to about 12 o'clock, they are issuing cards. Then they use the rest of the day to do new enrollment. And even with that, we still have about 809,000 cards.
Where?
At the various regional and district offices across the country that are yet to be issued. So these were cards that were printed after the mass registration. So cards that we couldn't print in the field, or we even printed them, but people couldn't come for them, and we had to leave the region. So coming to headquarters, we've had to print all of these cards, badge them, and taking them to the regional and district offices.
So, but isn't it true that in Ho, if you go today to register for the Ghana card, your appointment is in September?
I have to verify that. I mean, I'm not very sure about that, but I know that there's some form of appointment system that the regional and the district offices issue to applicants.
Where is this happening? Is it across the country?
It's just their own way of ensuring that the system gets easier for the people who come around. So that you don't have to come in queue. They register a couple of people for the day and they don't attend to you. We would have wasted your time in the queue.
So the point
that's where people get angry.
And this is only happening because the staff are issuing cards.
Yeah, issuing cards.
And then they also at the same time have to register.
Have to register.
But if this is so critical, why don't you just do division of labor?
By?
Sending more, employing more people.
Well, that also depends on the clearance that you get to engage people on a permanent basis.
But this is a national security.
So whatever
cards are going to be.
Yeah. So whatever numbers we have presented, unfortunately, we couldn't get that required number.
Okay, in terms of people who want to employ.
Being able to recruit is concerned. And indeed, when we came before the committee of the whole, we indicated that
you need more money.
Of course, NIO will always need more money.
You need more money to what?
We will need more money to employ more people so that at the
point in time, they didn't even have plastic cards.
So that at the various regional and district offices, we have more people serving Ghanaians.
But why aren't you hearing this now? Because yesterday and throughout, the minister had said, you. Meanwhile, you had challenges.
No, but we've always spoken about it.
And you told us just before the break that everything is kosher.
No,
now you're
when I talk about
that, there are challenges.
Get it, Evans.
Yeah.
Evans, you were talking about the number of people yet to register.
Yeah, true. But the point is, if they all register,
and I was just making
with the challenge you have now, if they all register,
I've also
complicate that matter even more.
It's not just the regional and the district offices, but it's also these other avenues that Ghanaians can take advantage of and register. And it will amaze you that if you go by these other ways of registering, it's almost comparable to the number of people we are able to register at the regional and the district offices.
Okay.
Because people have this thinking that it's much more easier if you go to a premium registration center and pay 250 cedis, or if you sit in your home and then call on NIA to come and do household registration or even do institutional registration. Okay. So a lot of people are taking advantage of this. Okay. And I've also added that once we are able to come into these MOUs with the MNOs, we should be able to create more location centers across the country. So that basically was the point.
I have pointed out the failure of the minister's policy, but that does not mean that the NIA is without blame. The NIA in itself has been yet another shameful execution of their mandate. They told this country, when even the Honorable Kennedy Japan told us that we should use 300 million Ghana cedis, 300 million to do the national identification process. At that time, he was chairman of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Communications. Engineer Professor Kenatefa came and told us that, we are spending 1.2 billion instead of 300 million because the card issuance was going to be Jinahoji. It was a quickie. You stay there, you register, you are issued your card. Today, you are holding almost 1 million cards that you came to people in their polling stations, branches, electoral areas, and registered them. You couldn't print the cards there. Months later, you're asking them to travel to a regional office. Up north, where you are from. You know the terrain better than I do. Some of the distances from the registration point to a regional office is almost 80 kilometers. In some cases, 120 kilometers. Who is bearing the responsibility for that? It is you. You fail to give the people who registered their cards there. Even today, if you go to LWAC and go and register, today, you are still told to go and come back for your card. So even in the heart of Accra, today, when we have crisis, where you are giving us assurances and painting a picture that all is rosy, you are unable today to print cards for people who registered today. So the NIA itself has its challenges. They must be factual with what their limitations are, and not paint the picture that, they have the capacity, they will execute, like Senior Ken did, Kenashibe did, with the calculation, 167 a day. That is like 1,000% increase on what they are doing in Ngo Pram Pram now. Because you are doing 15, and you are telling me you can do 167. What magic? Even when you appeared before Parliament, when your boss appeared before Parliament with you guys, and you guys came and explained to us what the problems are, apart from inadequate staff, you admitted to us that you didn't even have, at a certain point in time, you had run out of plastic cards. The plastic cards, the PVC cards to print. So if you have all of these logistical challenges, do not paint a picture to anybody that in 2 months, you can print 2.9 or 2.7 million cards. That is a real, let's be real.
Let me ask him to respond to that quickly before we wrap up.
Let me respond quickly to the issue of cost. And we have put out this information on many occasions. I'm sure Sam George is simply being mischievous. There's no way, there's no way. Now you're accusing me of mischief. No, you see, because the fact is that there's no way we could have spent 1.2 billion in a year to register Ghanaians or to produce cards. And we've always made that point very clear.
So
that this
what 1.2 billion, is it 1.2 billion or not?
So let me make the point. So this 1.2 billion is the cost of the life cycle of the project,
which is until you register
years.
And somebody said he can do it with 300 million.
No.
What is that? What is the mischief here?
You
admit the cost is 1.2 billion.
Which is for 15 years. Oh. So let no one.
So the 1.2 billion is the 1.2 billion is the cost of the project.
No, but the context.
I didn't say it was for 1 year. I never said it was for 1 year.
Can you hold on?
So the duration.
So
both the duration, both the Kennedy Assam and your Assam was all going to be
duration
for the duration,
is 1.2 billion.
And Ken said for the duration he would do it in 300 million.
Okay, no. Okay, so let him have some time. Yes.
Ken indicated that he could produce the cards, and of course, producing the cards was going to take a year. Yeah. So his 300 million
was for the year.
Certainly,
yours was for 15 years.
And the 1.2 billion. It's a projection for 15 years. Okay. It is not even the case that this money has been put in the hands of NIA, go and conduct registration. Okay. In fact, the premium registration I alluded to is a fee we took to Parliament, which was approved by Parliament, which NIA is charging. The card replacement that Ghanaians are paying 30 Ghana cedis for is part of those fees and charges. The household registration, the institutional registration, all of these are projections that we have made that over the next 15 years, this amount of revenue could be raked in. And that will mean that it will finance the cost of the project and even make some revenue.
1.2 billion.
All within the 1.2 billion.
Okay.
But for the project itself, the one we went around the country to conduct mass registration and produce the number of cards that we did, that was just around 293 million.
But Ghanaians, you have not even answered the fundamental problem. Did you promise Ghanaians that you would register them and print their cards?
So I will come to that.
No, but I just have 60 seconds to wrap up. So address that.
So you said you do it now.
So that point, why do you still have close to 1 million that you haven't managed to print at the place?
Yes,
briefly, I have 60 seconds.
Evans, there were technical issues, mostly during the mass registration.
Okay.
We know that internet connectivity.
You remember I warned them in Parliament? You remember I warned them about it?
In our country, it's still not perfect. And especially when you move out of.
And so you didn't factor that into your planning.
You were going to have.
That's why.
When it comes to the internet connectivity, and there were also instances.
Even in Accra, when you did the pilot in the Flagstaff House, you had connectivity problems.
Okay.
Flagstaff
We've
House.
Always been friends.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Briefly.
Look, and
there were
also data inconsistencies.
Okay.
People who came to give
that you needed to verify conflicted
with their previous data. Yeah. So all of those issues went into adjudication. Okay. And it all caused the.
Thank you very much for coming. Yeah, but when are you registering for your Ghana card?
Oh, I'll go and start queuing from next week. I'm doing branch organization. So from next week, I'll go and queue. If I spend 3 weeks
I'll
there,
make sure we register you.
No, I do not want any VIP treatment. I will join the queue the way the ordinary Ghanaian is going. Let's see how long it will take.
Enjoy the rest of your evening, people.